It started with a message I almost ignored. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee, sitting by the window, while a dull gray morning pressed against the glass, when my phone buzzed across the table. The name on the screen made me hesitate. I hadn't heard from Daniel in over a year, not since he moved north for contract work, and slowly stopped replying to anyone. For a second, I thought about letting it ring out. Then curiosity got the better of me. "Hey," the message read. "I need an extra pair of hands. Search team, remote area, pays decent. You in?" No greeting, no explanation. That was very like him. I stared at the message longer than I should have. Outside, a delivery truck rattled past, splashing through last night's rain. Everything felt normal, predictable, safe. And maybe that's why I typed back, "What kind of search?" The reply came almost instantly. "Missing persons, 3 of them. Went off-grid near Halver's Ridge. Locals won't go up there. We're short on people." Halver's Ridge. The name tugged at something buried deep in my memory. Not a clear thought, just a vague unease, like hearing a word you recognize but can't place. I leaned back in my chair, frowning. "Why won't locals go?" I asked. There was a pause this time, long enough that I thought he might not answer. Then, "They say it's not safe. Terrain's bad, weather shifts fast. You know how people get." I did know. I also knew Daniel wasn't the type to care about rumors. "How long?" I typed. 3 days, maybe 4. I should have said no. I had work, deadlines, a life that didn't involve hiking into remote mountains looking for people who didn't want to be found. But something about it pulled at me. Maybe it was the money. Or maybe it was that faint, nagging feeling tied to the name Halver's Ridge. "Send me the details," I wrote. 2 days later, I was standing at the edge of a forest that seemed to swallow sound. There were 8 of us in total. Not a large team, but apparently enough for what they called a surface sweep. Daniel greeted me with a quick nod, like no time had passed at all. He looked thinner, sharper somehow, his eyes constantly scanning the tree line as if expecting something to step out of it. "You made it," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "You still owe me an explanation." "You'll get one," he said, already turning away. "Briefing's about to start." That was the extent of our reunion. The team gathered around the back of a truck, where a woman in her 40s stood over a spread of maps. She introduced herself as Mara, the coordinator. Her voice was steady, practiced, the kind that didn't invite questions unless she wanted them. "3 missing hikers," she began. 2 men, 1 woman. Experience. Went up the ridge 5 days ago. Last contact was a GPS ping near this area. She tapped a section of the map, marked by a tight cluster of contour lines. "Search drones lost signal shortly after entering this zone. Weather's been interfering with aerial support, so we're doing this on foot." "Any signs of them coming down?" someone asked. Mara shook her head. "None." "What about wildlife?" another voice said. "Nothing unusual reported." There was a brief pause, and then she added, almost as an afterthought, "But stay alert." I exchanged a glance with Daniel. He didn't react. Daniel and I ended up together, along with a quiet older man named Lewis, and a younger guy called Trent, who looked like he'd signed up more for the paycheck than anything else. "Stick within visual range," Mara instructed. "Radio's on at all times. If you find anything, you call it in before touching it. Understood?" We nodded. The forest closed in almost immediately after we crossed the tree line. It wasn't just dense, it was oppressive. The canopy above blocked out most of the light, turning midday into something closer to dusk. The air felt damp and heavy, clinging to the skin. Even the usual forest sounds, birds, insects, wind, were strangely muted, like they were happening somewhere far away. "Place gives me a bad vibe," Trent muttered after about 10 minutes. "No kidding," Lewis said. Daniel said nothing. He was walking slightly ahead, his pace steady, his eyes fixed forward. We followed a faint trail that quickly deteriorated into uneven ground and tangled undergrowth. Every step required attention. Roots twisted across the forest floor like traps, and the soil shifted unpredictably beneath our boots. About an hour in, I noticed something. "Hey," I said, slowing. "You hear that?" They stopped. We listened. Nothing. "No," Trent said. "What?" "I thought I heard." I trailed off. It was gone now. "Probably just water," Lewis said. "There's streams all over this area." "Yeah," I said, though I wasn't convinced. We kept moving. The deeper we went, the harder it became to shake the feeling that something was off. Not in a dramatic way. There were no sudden noises, no movement in the trees, but in the small details. The way the air seemed too still, the way sound didn't carry properly. The way, every now and then, I'd think I heard something just behind us, only to turn and find nothing there. It built slowly, subtly. And then, we found the first sign. It was Daniel who spotted it. "Stop," he said abruptly. We froze. He pointed to the base of a tree a few feet ahead. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. Then I stepped closer. It was a backpack, half buried in mud, the fabric darkened by moisture. One strap twisted unnaturally beneath it. It looked like it had been dropped or thrown. "Don't touch it," Lewis said immediately. Daniel crouched beside it, studying it without making contact. "Matches the description," he said. "One of the hikers had a red pack." "Call it in," I said. Trent was already reaching for his radio. As he spoke into it, I scanned the area. That same uneasy feeling crept back in, stronger now. The forest around us felt tighter somehow, like the space between the trees had narrowed without us noticing. "Base, this is Team 2, Trent said. "We've located a possible belonging. Backpack. No sign of owner." Static crackled in response. Then Mara's voice came through. Faint but clear enough. "Copy that. Mark the location. Do not proceed further into that sector until instructed." Daniel and I exchanged another look. "Why not?" Trent asked, frowning. No answer. Just static. And for the first time since entering the forest, Daniel looked uncertain. Daniel kept his eyes on the radio for a second longer, as if expecting the static to resolve into something clearer, something that made sense. It didn't. The signal faded in and out, then dropped completely. "That's it? We just stop?" Lewis straightened slowly, glancing back the way we'd come. "We follow instructions." Daniel didn't move. His gaze shifted from the radio to the trees ahead, deeper into the sector Mara had just told us not to enter. For a moment, I thought he was going to ignore her completely and keep going. Instead, he exhaled quietly and stood up. "We mark it." We flagged the area with bright tape, tying it around nearby branches so it would be visible from multiple angles. Trent took photos on his phone, muttering under his breath about signal loss and outdated equipment. "Feels wrong leaving it," he said. "It's not our call," Lewis replied. Still, none of us moved right away. The backpack sat there in the mud, silent and out of place, like it had been waiting for us. I couldn't shake the feeling that there should have been more. Tracks, signs of struggle, anything. But there was nothing. "All right," Daniel said finally. "We hold position." We stepped back a few meters, forming a loose circle without really meaning to. The forest pressed in around us again, thick and watchful. Minutes passed. No radio update, no distant awaz, not even the wind. "Is it just me?" Trent said after a while, his voice lower now, "or is it getting darker?" I looked up. He wasn't wrong. The light filtering through the canopy had dimmed noticeably, the gray above shifting towards something heavier, like storm clouds gathering where we couldn't see them. "It's too early for that," I said. Lewis checked his watch. Barely past noon. Daniel turned slowly, scanning the treetops. Weather wasn't supposed to turn until tonight. As if in response, a faint sound drifted through the trees. This time I heard it clearly. Distant. Just one word, stretched thin and distorted by distance. "Hello?" We all froze. "Tell me you heard that," Trent whispered. "I heard it," I said. Lewis nodded once, his jaw tightening. Daniel was already moving. Wait, I started, but he was heading toward the sound, pushing through the undergrowth with quick, deliberate steps. Daniel, Lewis called, we're supposed to hold. But the voice came again, slightly clearer this time. Help. That was enough. We followed. The terrain shifted as we moved deeper into the restricted sector. The ground sloped unevenly, forcing us to watch every step. The trees grew closer together, their trunks thinner but more numerous, branches tangling overhead like a web. Stay together, Lewis said, though he was now the one at the back. The voice didn't come again, but the direction felt clear. Or maybe we just convinced ourselves it was. After several minutes, Daniel slowed. Wait, he said. We stopped behind him. What? Trent asked. Daniel frowned, looking around. It was coming from here. There was nothing. No person, no movement, just trees and shadow. That doesn't make sense, Trent said. We were right on it. Lewis stepped forward, scanning the ground. No tracks, he murmured, not even ours from a second ago. I looked down. He was right. The soil was soft enough that our boots should have left clear impressions, but the ground looked undisturbed, smooth, aside from scattered leaves and small patches of mud. That's not possible, I said. Daniel crouched, brushing aside a layer of wet leaves. It's like it reset. Reset? Trent echoed. Before Daniel could respond, the radio crackled sharply. All of us jumped. Team 2, respond, Mara's voice cut through, strained and uneven. Trent grabbed the radio. We're here. We heard someone. You were told to hold position, Mara interrupted. Why did you move? There was a voice, Trent said. Someone calling for help. A pause. Then, no other teams reported Avaz. There are no civilians in that sector. We exchanged glances. We all heard it, I said, leaning toward the radio. Another pause, longer this time. Mark your current position and return immediately, Mara said. Do not continue further. The radio went dead again. Trent lowered it slowly. Okay, that's not normal. No, Lewis agreed. It's not. Daniel stood, brushing dirt from his hands. We're going back. No one argued. But as we turned, something changed. The forest behind us didn't look the same. I know how that sounds. Forests aren't exactly easy to memorize, especially ones this dense. But there are always small landmarks, broken branches, unusual trees, subtle variations in the ground. And the path we'd taken, even without clear tracks, should have felt familiar. It didn't. Which way? Trent asked quietly. Lewis pointed to the left. We came from... He stopped, mid-sentence. What? I said. He hesitated. I thought it was that way. Daniel turned in a slow circle. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked genuinely unsure. That's not good, Trent said. No, Daniel replied. It's not. A faint sound echoed through the forest again. Not the voice this time. Something else. A low, irregular noise, like movement. Close enough that we should have seen whatever made it. We didn't. Okay, Trent said, his voice tightening. We need to pick a direction and move. Not randomly, Lewis snapped. That's how people get lost. We're already lost. Enough, Daniel cut in. The noise came again, slightly louder. This time, it sounded almost like footsteps, circling us. I felt a cold pressure settle in my chest. Do you hear that? They all nodded. Stay close, Daniel said. We moved together, slow. Which way? Trent asked again. Daniel looked ahead, then to the right. This way. We started walking. The sound followed, not directly behind us, not ahead, but somewhere off to the side, keeping pace. Always just out of view. Stop, Lewis said suddenly. We froze. The sound stopped too. Silence rushed in, heavy and absolute. Okay, Trent whispered. That's worse. Daniel didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on something ahead. I followed his gaze. At first, I thought it was just another tree, Then it moved. Not much, just a slight shift, like a person adjusting their stance. But there was no one there. It was too tall, too thin, blending into the vertical lines of the forest in a way that made it hard to focus on directly. "Do you see that?" I asked. No one answered, and somehow, that was worse than if they had. No one spoke for several seconds. We just stood there, staring. The shape, if that's what it was, remained perfectly still, half hidden among the trees. The longer I looked at it, the harder it became to define. My eyes kept trying to turn it into something familiar, something human, but it wouldn't settle into a clear form. "Tell me you see that," I said again, quieter this time. "I see something," Trent whispered. Lewis didn't respond. His breathing had gone shallow, controlled. Daniel took a slow step forward. "Don't," I said immediately. He ignored me. Another step. The thing didn't move. "Daniel," Lewis said, sharper now, "we don't know what that is." Daniel stopped, but he didn't step back. "It's not moving," he said. "Exactly," Trent replied. "That's the problem." A faint sound came from somewhere behind us. We all flinched and turned instinctively. Nothing. Just trees, shadows, that same suffocating stillness. When we looked back, the shape was gone. "Where did it?" Trent started. "Don't," Lewis said quickly. "Don't start guessing." Daniel's jaw tightened. "We're leaving now." This time, no one questioned the direction. We moved faster, not quite running but close enough that it felt uncontrolled. Branches scraped against our jackets. The forest seemed thicker now, denser than before, like it was closing in as we tried to push through it. The sound returned. Footsteps, not circling anymore, behind us, matching our pace. "Don't look back," Daniel said. That was enough to make it almost impossible not to. "Daniel," I started. "Don't look back," he repeated. So I didn't. But I listened. Each step we took was followed by another set, slightly delayed, slightly heavier. Close enough that I could feel it, more than hear it, like vibrations through the ground. Trent let out a shaky breath. "It's right behind us. Keep moving," Lewis said. The terrain dipped suddenly, the ground sloping downward, into a narrow stretch where the trees thinned, just enough to let in a weak, gray light. For a moment, it felt like we might break through. Then Daniel stopped so abruptly that I nearly ran into him. "What now?" Trent said, panic creeping into his voice. Daniel didn't answer. He was staring at the ground. I followed his gaze and felt my stomach drop. Footprints. Fresh, deep, leading toward us. But not ours. They were wrong. Too long, too narrow. The spacing between them uneven, like whatever made them didn't walk properly, or didn't need to. "They weren't here before," Lewis said under his breath. "No," I said, "they weren't." The footprints stopped a few feet in front of us. Just stopped, as if whatever made them had vanished mid-step. The sound behind us ceased. Silence again. Heavy. Waiting. "Okay," Trent said, his voice barely holding together. "Okay. I'm done. I'm actually done. We need to run." "No," Daniel said. "No," Trent snapped. "Did you not see? If we run, we lose each other," Daniel cut in. "And then, we're done." Trent looked like he wanted to argue, but no words came out. Daniel took a breath, steadying himself. We followed the slope down. Lower ground usually leads to water. Water leads out. "That's assuming this place works normally," Lewis muttered. Daniel didn't respond. We moved again, slower now, more deliberate. Every step felt like it mattered too much. The footprints remained behind us, but the feeling didn't. That sense of being followed hadn't gone away. If anything, it felt closer now. Tighter. Like whatever had been behind us had simply changed position. After several minutes, the ground leveled out into a shallow basin. The soil here was wetter, darker, sucking at our boots with each step. And then we saw it. A clearing. Not large, but unnatural. The trees around it formed a near-perfect circle, their trunks spaced evenly in a way that didn't match the chaos of the rest of the forest. The ground inside was almost bare, aside from patches of dark, saturated earth. And in the center, clothing, scattered, torn, mud-stained. More than we'd seen in the photos during briefing. "That's them," Trent said. No one needed to confirm it. We stepped closer, cautiously. "Don't touch anything," Lewis said automatically, though his voice lacked its earlier certainty. I scanned the clearing. No bodies, no bones, just clothes. "Where are they?" I asked. No one answered. Daniel moved slowly along the edge, his eyes fixed on the ground. "This isn't random," he said. "What do you mean?" I asked. He pointed. The clothes weren't just scattered, they formed a loose pattern, a rough spiral, tightening toward the center of the clearing. "That's not natural," Lewis said. "No," Daniel agreed. Trent let out a nervous laugh. "Okay, I officially hate this." The radio crackled again. All of us jumped. "Any team respond," Mara's voice came through, broken but urgent. "We've lost contact with." Static swallowed the rest. Trent grabbed it. "This is Team 2. We found a clearing, multiple belongings, no survivors, silence." Then, "Leave the area immediately," Mara said. "Do not remain in that location." Her voice cut out again. "That's the second time she said that," I said. "We go." But as we turned, the temperature dropped. Not gradually, all at once. A sharp, unnatural cold that cut through layers and settled into bone. "Do you feel that?" Trent whispered. "Yes," Lewis said. The air shifted, and then a voice, right behind us, clear, close. "Why are you leaving?" I turned before I could stop myself. There was no one there. But the clearing, it wasn't empty anymore. At the center, where the spiral tightened into nothing, something was standing there. Not fully visible, not completely hidden, just enough to know it had been there the whole time, watching us, waiting. No one moved. The thing in the center of the clearing didn't step forward, didn't make a sound, didn't even seem to breathe. And yet every instinct I had screamed that it was aware of us in a way that went beyond sight. It felt like we had just crossed some invisible boundary, like we had stepped into a place where we were no longer observers. We were part of it. "Don't," Daniel said under his breath, though I hadn't realized I'd taken a step back. No sudden movement. Trent's voice came out thin. "That thing just spoke." "I know," Daniel said. Lewis didn't speak at all. His eyes were locked on the center of the clearing, unblinking. The shape shifted. Not forward, not backward, just slightly, like a distortion in the air correcting itself. For a split second, it almost looked human. Shoulders, a head, the outline of arms hanging too long at its sides. Then it didn't. "Why are you leaving?" the voice asked again. This time it didn't come from behind us. It came from everywhere. The trees, the ground, the air between us. It was the same voice we had heard earlier, calling for help. But now it was wrong. Flattened, hollow, like it was repeating something it didn't understand. Trent shook his head slowly. No, we're not doing this." "We don't respond," Daniel said quietly. "We walk out, slowly." "Walk?" Trent snapped. "Are you insane?" "Running didn't help the others," Lewis said suddenly. We all looked at him. He swallowed. The missing team, the hikers, whatever happened here, they ran. The implication settled heavily over us. "Okay," Trent said, voice shaking. "Okay, we walk." Daniel nodded once. "Stay together." We began to move, edging along the perimeter of the clearing, careful not to step further into the spiral of clothing. Every movement felt exaggerated, like we were being watched from multiple angles at once. The thing in the center didn't follow, but it turned. Not with a natural motion, more like it reoriented, its shape adjusting so that it always faced us no matter where we stepped. "Don't look at it directly," Daniel murmured. "Too late for that." "Why are you leaving?" it asked again. Closer now. I felt something brush against the back of my jacket. I froze. "Don't stop," Daniel said immediately. "It's right behind me," I whispered. "I know," he said. That was worse. We reached the edge of the clearing. The moment my foot crossed back onto the uneven forest floor, the pressure in the air shifted. Not gone, but weaker, like stepping out of deep water and realizing how heavy it had been. "Keep going," Lewis said. We did. No one spoke. The forest ahead looked the same as before, but something had changed. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It felt occupied. After several minutes, Trent broke. "I can still hear it," he said. "It's still talking." I listened. At first, nothing, then faintly, "Why are you leaving?" Over and over, quieter each time, as if it were falling behind, or losing interest. We didn't stop moving until the ground began to slope upward again. The trees thinned slightly, enough that more light filtered through. "I think," I started, then stopped. "What?" Daniel asked. "I think we're close." "I feel it too." And then, finally, a sound that didn't belong to the forest. Distant, familiar. A vehicle engine. Trent let out a strained laugh. "Oh my God, that's..." "Don't celebrate yet," Lewis said, though his voice softened. We pushed forward, faster now, but still controlled, until the trees began to break apart and the outline of the staging area came into view. The truck, the tents, empty. "Where is everyone?" Trent asked. No answer. We stepped out of the tree line. The air felt different here. Lighter, warmer, normal. Too normal. Daniel raised his radio. "Base, this is Team 2. We've returned. Do you copy?" Static. Then, a voice. Not Mara. Not anyone we recognized. "Why did you leave?" The radio went dead. Trent stared at it like it had burned him. "No, no, no, no." "Turn it off," Lewis said. He did. We stood there in silence, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on us in a way that words couldn't touch. Daniel was the first to move. He walked toward the main tent, unzipped it, and looked inside. Nothing. "Supplies are still here," he said. "They didn't pack up." "Then where did they go?" I asked. No one answered. Because we already knew, or at least we had a guess none of us wanted to say out loud. We didn't stay. None of us suggested it. We took what we needed, water, keys, anything useful, and left before the lights started to fade again. The drive back was silent. No one turned on the radio. No one checked their phones. It was like we had all agreed, without saying it, that anything coming from outside the vehicle couldn't be trusted. By the time we reached the nearest town, it was already dark. We reported everything. Every detail. The backpack, the voice, the clearing, the thing in the center. They listened, they wrote it down, and then they gave us an explanation. Environmental disorientation, they said. Auditory hallucinations caused by stress, unstable terrain. You likely became turned around. And the others? Daniel asked. A pause. Search operations will continue when conditions improve. They didn't. Not really. A few attempts were made. Drones, aerial scans. Nothing came back. No bodies, no signals, no trace of the clearing we had found. It was like that part of the forest had simply closed. Daniel left again a week later. No message this time. Lewis stopped answering calls. Trent tried to laugh it off at first. Said it was just stress, just exhaustion. He changed his number a month later. As for me, I tried to move on. I really did. But sometimes, Late at night, when everything is quiet and the world feels just a little too still, I hear it. Not loud, not clear, just enough. A voice I recognize, flattened, hollow, repeating the same question over and over, like it's still waiting for an answer.